All right. It's the 25th anniversary of The Matrix. That happened on 31st of March. So I wanted to talk about it because sometimes we do some retrospectives. We did one for the Avengers for that 10-year anniversary. We did one for Starship Troopers. I mean, I went back and I watched this movie back in 2019, so on its 20th anniversary. And then 5 years ago, I was like, this movie still holds up. Now, are there shots from the first Matrix that look like a movie made in 1999? Yes. But the beauty of it is majority of the work you're seeing, a lot of the fight scenes are choreographed. There's stunt performers. And it's just, I don't know, man. I think of what I've seen lately with modern action movies and shows, and I see an over-reliance on CG, and I complain a lot about it on the show. I complain about it on the Halo show.
They don't want to pay stunt performers.
They don't. And
it's fucking bullshit.
And it shows because when you have a movie made in 1999 and the fight scenes are fucking good and visceral and awesome because they actually had people really performing, and it's not a fucking computer. It's actual. Now they get out of hand in the next two movies, but
say what you will about Blade Runner 2049, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But there's a scene where Harrison Ford's character punches Ryan Gosling's character, and there's a well-known YouTube blooper out there where he actually clocks fucking Ryan Gosling because they're trying to do, whatever, the stage punch or whatever. That's why, that's what good movies do. I mean, I liked Blade Runner 2049, and I'm just saying, like, that's an attention to detail that, like, Denis Villeneuve uses, good filmmakers use.
Just
with
an excuse
CG.
to talk about Denis.
I'm just saying, if
Yes.
you use practical, we talked about Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. How much of that movie relies on CG for its like major shots?
Yeah.
And probably fight scenes too.
And
right?
I mean, and it's not to me it's not.
Are there any choreographed fight scenes at all, or
in Aquaman? I stopped caring about that movie a long time ago.
But it shows when a movie doesn't take the attention.
That's what I mean, and that's
why
why so much of this movie stands out still and still holds up all these years later. I mean, like we were talking about it before we were recording. Like the fucking dojo scene is incredible. It is and so much of this movie, and there's a reason like this whole thing took off and it became what it was, is because of just how committed it was to the decisions it was making, and it was
all the actors are committed too.
And at times, like when you think there's certain situations where they might be too hammy or overacting, it works for the movie.
Yes.
And like, dude, Lawrence Fishburne is fucking incredible in this movie because he nails and is so committed. He made a choice. He's Stilgar from Dune. It's the same thing. It's like he buys into this. He believes that Neo is the chosen one. He's the one. So, like, his zealotry for him is just like, I laugh at it because of how hammy it is, but how perfect it is for Morpheus as a character when he's fighting Smith towards the end, and you starting to root for him too because you're like, yeah, he's starting to fucking fight back.
Yeah.
And it cuts to Morpheus and like, what's happening? And he goes, he's beginning to believe. Like just how he delivers it, and it's such a but it's like, fuck yeah, you're right, Morpheus. I'm believing in this guy now.
Like to totally go along with that, like I was just gonna say, like how the actors are so committed to this movie and everything. Like you kind of have to know there's humor in this movie, but it's not your typical kind of humor. It's a serious fucking movie. And the actors play it like that, and the editing is done, to highlight that, the directing, the writing, all of that. And you can't help but lean into it also, even during the hammy parts, even during like, and let's be honest, Joe Pantoliano steals the show when he's having the steak. I know this is not real. I don't care.
It feels real. Well, I mean, like his whole reasoning makes sense.
Oh, fuck yeah, dude.
If this is the Matrix, okay.
So wait a second. So what you're telling me is I can go back in there and I can.
Yeah.
You'll erase my memories, so I won't know.
Yeah.
But I'll be awesome. Now, here's the flip side of that. If you do that, how will you know that you won?
How will you know?
How will you know that the computers held up their end of the bargain? Because they're going to erase your memory so you don't know you're in the Matrix, right?
You're just you're a power source. They don't give a
So
shit.
what
You're
if they?
energy.
So what the fuck? What's to stop them from making
there's
you
there's a couple things I wanted to
a
talk.
poor dude?
With this being a retrospective, there's a couple things I wanted to talk about. First thing I wanted to say, when do you remember the first time you saw it?
Yes. I could not tell you where or when exactly I was. I know I must have been. No, hang on. Just hang on. Because it'll
all make sense.
It'll make sense. I do know that I was extremely high. And probably, I don't think I was hungover. And it had been out for a little bit, and my buddies were like, "Hey, have you seen this?" And I was like, "No, I haven't seen it, but whatever." I was one of these assholes who, like, if everybody liked it, like, if it was a phenomenon.
A hipster.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah.
No.
I think everybody has
I don't want to watch Forrest Gump.
I think everybody has a hipster phase at one point, because I've definitely had
It was
that.
a while.
Yeah.
But anyway, so they popped it in, and I watched it. I couldn't tell you that, but I do remember every thing that was going on screen is etched in my mind.
Yeah.
And just how.
So
I don't think I knew anything about it. I don't think.
Yeah.
I think spoilers hadn't really. I don't even know if I knew that it was about whatever. Does that make? I'm trying to make sense about it. But I didn't go into it blind, but I didn't know anything about it. And within like 10 minutes, you're like, holy fuck, what is this?
Yeah.
And then it just becomes this whole other. It becomes like a thing, man.
Yeah.
And it's fucking crazy how well it's done. The writing, acting, directing, everything. And just, every moment of watching that first time is etched in my fucking mind. Just because it was so good.
I remember it was one of the first movies we had on DVD. And they had a bunch of like special features on it. And that's when I really started to. I was young. I was like I was probably 6 or 7, probably 7 years old when this movie came out. And now, could it be considered questionable parenting that I watched this movie at that age? Yeah, probably. But as a kid, I wasn't like. For me, the dojo scene and the shootout at the fucking tower at the end of this movie, like that's like it's a violent movie, but it's not like overly gory.
No,
because
we were talking
again,
about this off the air.
This is the attention to detail and the beauty of it. If you think about it, when they're assaulting and killing all those people in the tower, that's just computer programmed, so there wouldn't be blood. They're just dead. And I'm like, that's a nice little attention to detail that you don't think about.
When do we see blood? Because we do see blood.
It's the humans,
right?
The people that are plugged
in the fucking chairs.
Yeah,
I don't think we see it like in the program. You know what I mean?
The agents don't bleed,
which is another great attention to detail that the humans in the program don't bleed, but they're
the
physical
people that
bodies
are jacked in. Yeah, but
that was really cool.
I remember watching this on home video and then eventually watching it on DVD. But again, I just remember even at that age being truly. Because, I mean, those themes are going to go over my head. I'm not going to understand. The action and, like, I've seen that movie so many times and things that are burned into my brain. And to me, it's always because of just the nature of who I am. Audio cues and music and soundtracks I'm attuned to. And when they assault that fucking tower, I hear that, like, metal, like, pounding, like, dude, like that heavy beat, you know what I'm talking about? Mm-hmm. Oh, like when they get the guns and the guns. He goes, I need a gun. I need guns. Lots of guns.
So fucking badass.
And then all the guns show up, right? And it's that fucking metal clanging in the background and building up the music. And then when they go through the fucking metal detectors, and then it just kicks into the music, and it just fucking all like
that fucking song is dope.
I'll never forget. So again, the 20th anniversary rolls around, and my wife hadn't really seen it. She just known about it because it was such a big thing in pop culture when it was around. So she had known of it. She'd seen the jokes and the clips and the parodies, because there's so many parodies of this fucking movie.
Well, it's hard not to have some sort of,
right,
rudimentary knowledge about it.
But it was fun to watch it with her, because I was watching it and I was like, "Oh, this is crazy! Oh, this is a great moment." Like you could tell she always laughs because she always knows that I really like a movie because I get real giddy about it. And like when
it's kind of I'd like to watch The Wire with you.
Oh my gosh! But when he like the dojo scene shows up, I got real excited because again, you talk about the music. The music in that fucking dojo scene just perfectly matches it. You know what I mean? And it's the music that's very of that time. It's very got that like weird new kind of techno, but then you hear like gongs in the background because it's a kung fu fight, and it's got like some funk to it. It's like it's so like it's a movie that just fucking commits to its style and goes for it. Well, and it's so good.
When you don't know what it's about, and you see previews obviously, and you probably have known about the slow motion shit and whatnot. But when you don't
bullet time shit,
right? But when you don't know what it's about, that first like the whole when he comes out of like the tube and shit,
yeah.
Like, it becomes basically a completely different... Like, that unlocking that and understanding the rest of it, and then that dojo scene and seeing, like, what you can do and shit.
How fast he can move and how he can hack the system. Like,
right, you know? I mean, it's just like, holy fuck. Like, oh, wow. Like, I need to drive something.
But again,
like,
the music matching
when they go in and he's like, I need to drive this or whatever, and he's like... And he hooks him up with the...
Yeah.
Like
I need to learn in this. Yeah, in the second movie, she's like, I need to know how to drive. Yeah,
didn't they do that in the first one?
They do
at some point,
but it's a running thing they do.
Yeah, but I mean, like,
yeah, just things like that. Like, you download a program
when
again, music cues.
Yeah,
when he's fucking in the programs, it is the beat, that pounding, the metal pounding, and then because when he comes out of, he's like. Hell yeah. Like, he goes back in there because he's training. Yeah. He's got that beat. And so it's like whenever they're doing shit, like whenever the tension is building.
Yeah, I remember when he's like, I just learned Kung Fu. Like
so
that.
that music, and then they reprise it when he's getting they're getting the guns, and they bring it back when they're in the tower. And then it kicks into
whole
the
fucking lobby scene
again,
alone,
the fucking
dude.
Like bass line when it cuts to them just like that techno shit where they're flipping off the walls. And it's just so good, man.
And you can tell whatever camera speeds or film or whatever they were using, that shit's practical. They were really blowing the fuck out of all that granite on all those fucking pillars in that fucking room, dude.
They just shot it with a shit ton of cameras.
Right. But they were really I mean, that's not CGI fucking like, granite. Being,
yeah,
and it fucking shows. Like we've been talking, that's why this movie still holds up, even though there's a lot of special effects. When it could be achieved, they fucking went practical, and I think that's really fucking important to remember. For God's sakes, Hollywood, you fucks.
Well, and just like the pacing of this movie is paced perfectly, like unbelievably perfect. Because there's such that buildup, but there's still that, like I said, you still have the dojo scene, you still have the fights with the Sentinels, you still have things building to where we're headed. And then once Neo and Trinity go to save Morpheus, this movie kicks it into another gear that is just like, again, I am still in awe of how fucking perfect the payoffs are. Because... you get everything you want. Like, this third act was, like, maybe it's because I've seen so many movies come out where the third act, it kind of falls apart. So it's kind of crazy to go back and think about a movie that really fucking nails the third act. Because as soon as they show up in that tower, it is balls to the wall. Like, it is action.
Yeah.
And perfectly sprinkled. We have people outside of the Matrix. We still have tension. They're fighting the Sentinels while he is fighting all this by himself. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And well, the fucking the helicopter scene when he does the dodge thing that gets parodied all hell, but then when he fucking the slow-mo of him swinging the rope around to catch the fucking helicopter and pull up Morpheus, and they have like that bro high vibe. I'm like, fuck yes, man. Like, it's just so perfect. And then she gets like, we lead to Trinity getting out of the Matrix, Morpheus, now it's Neo, and then we get the subway shit where he's doing the weird fighting in the air and shooting each other. And then like it keeps going, and then it ends, and you're like, "Holy shit, that was incredible!"
And it ends with fucking
him flying up.
It ends with what I consider to be the best song off of Rage Against the Machine's first album.
In my opinion, the greatest needle drop to the end credits I've ever seen, because it just hits perfect. Wake up, boom, and it's just like perfection. Yeah. And I don't think the sequels deter this movie deter this legacy.
I think,
or dampen this legacy. I think this movie stands so well on its own that
here's what I like. One thing I want to say is that when for a while after the sequels came out, and I was huge into the Matrix for a while. I had the Animatrix, I had all that shit. I
never watched the Animatrix stuff
or
played the games.
Good. I didn't play the games, but I was huge into the Matrix when the second one came out. You know, like I bought like a special edition, like $12, you know, those books you can get like in the Impulse at like Target and grocery store. You know what I'm talking about, like special edition behind the scenes, you know. And I bought that, and I was just all into the fucking second sequel. Which one is it? Revolutions or Reloaded? Well, and Revolutions with the third one. Yeah. And what's the one?
It's Reloaded, Revolutions, Resurrections.
Now, no, they are not very good. And the second one, they're not terrible.
The second one has its moments, man.
Right, but
like that fucking freeway sequence. Oh my god!
Because it's practical.
It's an amazing sequence.
Built a fucking like 3-mile highway just for that. But yeah, the whole parodying of Sean William Scott. The guy who was in American Pie.
Sean William Scott.
Yeah, and Justin Timberlake. They did a whole thing during the MTV Video Music Awards that year where they parodied...
This is probably the MTV Movie Awards.
Might be. And Will Ferrell ended up being... Do you know what I'm talking about?
That was for the second movie,
Yes, right. And that was when it kind of became silly and whatnot. But I think if you view... For a long time, I didn't understand the story and what it was about with the Wachowskis.
Yeah.
Now that I know what the story's about, I give a lot more.
Well, understanding that it's a trans allegory and that Neo's journey.
I don't mind so much that the sequels aren't as good.
Yeah.
Because I think they had to finish that story. And when you also cap it with Resurrections, which I think was done very well.
Yeah,
I think it kind of forgives the Merovingian type shit and all that. The Merovingian in Resurrections is hilarious, right? Isn't he? He's so dumb.
I don't want to resurrect talking about that movie.
Do you remember what I'm talking about though? But viewed through that lens, I don't think the sequels are as bad as I used to, and I don't hate them as much as I used to.
Given their story,
but I still wouldn't watch them again.
Given their story and being with this being a trans allegory, and it really is. Like, I mean, I don't see
absolutely.
Once I had someone explain that to me, or once I had seen that explained to me, I'd like that makes a lot of sense. I never viewed it that way.
It blew my fucking mind how much sense it made.
And again, giving the directors, I was like, oh, that makes so much more sense. And it's a fucking genius story if you think about it that way.
Have you ever seen Cloud Atlas? I think it was the first movie they did after they transitioned, or right before.
I've not seen it. I've heard about it, but I have not seen it.
It's really interesting because Tom Hanks plays like 4 different... You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. There's like 4 different timelines.
Anybody listening, give it a shot. Now, there is some racist shit in there because I think one of...
They also
I think, if I'm not mistaken, either somebody plays an Asian woman who isn't Asian.
Mm.
But
Yikes.
and there was some backlash at it, but it's done with a lot of makeup. I can't remember. I want to say I can't remember. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
They also did Speed Racer.
Yeah, I've never seen that, but I've heard,
which is a weird movie, and
I've heard that
different episode, different day. But yeah, so The Matrix turns
Matrix still
25.
holds up.
Unbelievable that
Yeah.
and I still think a lot to this day. I think a lot of movies have taken a lot from what this started. It really changed the game.
You still see the movie tricks that they used in this film used today. I mean, when you think about what movies were before Citizen Kane, all of the basic angles that we see every day and basic TV cable shit that we see, you never saw those before Citizen Kane. He was the first one to do shots from the ground and shit like that. Basic stuff, right? It's the same thing with The Matrix. Once it's used to perfection, then other people are going to copy it. And it's going to become part of I guarantee you within a year it was being taught at at movie academies and shit. Hey, movie academies. Hey.
All right.
Off panel, off topic with Jake and Tyler.